So, Danny, how long have we been talking about putting on a vodka? I don't know what this is called, but how long have we been talking about getting serious about recording just our discussion around growing an events business? There's so many things to talk about. We can go down technical elements. We can go down different elements with employees, all the things that we want to have discussion around, all the things that we're constantly trying to improve in. And we've said we wanted to start this platform. So here we are today, finally doing it.
Recording.
It's going to be a little rough.
Our first podcast.
Yep. And so let's start off by saying, who are you? Who am I? Why does it matter? Why are we here?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Danny Burke. I'm a co-founder and partner at Legion AVS. We are a corporate and political full-service event production company, which we'll get into. And
Marcus Baratz. I am a co-founder and director of business development for Legion AVS. So primarily focused on sales and finance for the business, but I am on job sites all the time.
And also I would say, I don't have any business background other than doing business, but as director of business development, I feel like you have a big part in setting, it sounds dumb, but the development of the business. So our goals and the company culture and our systems and there's a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, all of those things are team efforts, but having somebody who is kind of driving that is really, really, really valuable.
Yeah. Well, I think it's similar to this undertaking right here. These are all things that if you're intentional with what you're doing, can make a huge impact on where you're going.
Right.
And
so I guess I would say I'm getting us off track again, but I as director of events and being really in it, designing events, quoting, building systems or building event packages and all these things, sometimes it's hard for me to get my head above water and think about working on the business. Again, I think it works really well as a team to have somebody who's more focused on the business. You're on event sites, you do stuff on event sites, you're definitely in the business as well, but your main focus is working on the business.
And I would say, really, when I look at it, my main focus is optimizing you, essentially. How do I build a system around you? How do I replicate that and turn it into a business that's more than just a producer? Right. And so that's what we focus on a lot. I mean, as thinking of a podcast that is valuable to other AV companies, if you don't have this person, maybe try to get this person. Doesn't have to be a partner, but hire somebody, or maybe just somebody you already have. Just try to have somebody start focusing on that, because man, oh man, I cannot tell you how valuable it is to have somebody who's just looking at the big picture, right? There's
and he forces me to look at the big picture, and I'd say our other partner Steve.
I think business development is something that we've actually been pretty focused on, and we are a part of a couple of different organizations. You're with Vistage, I'm with EO, and we have also been using EOS,
Entrepreneurial Organization System.
Yes, correct. We've had that. We've had an implementer, and that's a great way to start. If you don't have, let's say you're not necessarily focused, EOS is really a great way to streamline that process. We've been running it for a long time. It's definitely something that takes time to get right. And you got to be dedicated to it, but when you do, it just helps you prioritize, all right, doing more than just the project at hand. So
Mark, how did you get into events? How did you get into this industry?
Well, Dan, funny story.
I know the answer.
So I was in college. It was a summer of college. You called me up,
wasn't January.
It was Mitt Romney's campaign, and at the time, I had a couple of different jobs, but I want to say the day rate was $300, and to me that was that is fucking awesome. You're gonna fly me out. You're gonna fly me out to wherever, and I think I went to San Diego and Omaha, Nebraska, and all kinds of random places. And to me at the time, it was just an awesome opportunity. So Did that just for that summer. Did a couple shows, and then went back to college and wrapped it up. And then, well, I guess I didn't wrap up college because at the right before you called me up for 2016, so I must have been high school. No, I was just in college for 6 years. Yeah, I was just in college for 6 years. But yeah, right before I graduated, you reached out to me about 2016, John Kasich's campaign, and essentially asked me if I wanted to fly out and spend the next 9 months in the minivan and figure it out. And we did.
And here we are.
We figured it out.
Yeah, it was 2014. I had you guys come out and help, and then I was like, I'm drowning. I can't do this on my own. So let's start a company together.
Yeah. And how about you, Dan? Where did you start off? Because it was much earlier than that.
Much earlier. The little bit of college I went to, I did theater and technical theater, and learned how to weld and how to, refine my carpentry quite a bit. And then I learned how to do lighting, and then I learned all the things you need to learn to be able to do technical theater, which honestly is such an amazing training ground for events. I feel like I was so much better prepared than so many people because I learned rigging. I learned, like I said, welding, carpentry, lighting, audio, basic video, not a ton of video, but some video. Like I learned all of these things by doing shows and then also doing live productions, which means, you're going live. And that's just a big thing that people struggle with, I feel like, is like, when you're live, and like you can't stop the show, right? So did that, started working in theater professionally. Then I was like living in the Bay Area. It's incredibly expensive. And I was literally working like 6 different theater jobs. So I would work at the San Jose Opera as a carpenter welder. And then I would go work at the San Jose Repertory Theater as a carpenter welder. Then I would go work on shows in the evenings, and then I was a technical director for a children's theater department, and so like I was building sets. Like I was literally working like 16, 18-hour days, like 5 days a week. It was exhausting, and I was making $20 an hour, between $20 and $25 an hour, and this was like 2011. So then I got pulled into doing events, and yeah, I think I started at $250 a day or $300 a day as an event tech, and was just like, well, this is where the money's at. So I started doing that, working for a couple of different production companies. And then end of 2011, I got a call to do the Mitt Romney campaign, and I turned them down first time because I already had a bunch of jobs. Like I got like 4 jobs. I can't just leave all my jobs to come on the road full time. And luckily they were persistent and asked me a few more times, and I finally agreed. And then pretty quickly worked my way up to being, project manager or assistant project manager on that whole campaign. I got to hire out my whole crew, which ended up being Mark and like some of my other friends and the people I had met in theater and things. Got laid off, decided I was going to try to do my own thing, and did. Kind of not, I wouldn't say failed at my own thing, but definitely realized that I needed help. And that's when I talked to you and Steve. And so we could all not make money together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I mean, all that being said, biggest things that we learned from doing political is how to be responsive and resourceful. Yeah. And that's certainly because we were essentially getting the location the day before every event. When we would drive out, figure it out. We need chairs. We need this. We need that. And we would call it up. We'd find it every single day. And really, like, we cut our teeth. Some of the things were not easy asks, like there were some ridiculous asks. And we had to do some scenarios like, it's essentially walking into a whole new scenario, sometimes twice a day, and manipulating a different landscape. Because these were not event halls. These are VFWs, farms, people's houses,
parking lots.
There's all kinds of stuff. Like I did events in some weird spots, right?
Yeah, barns.
But I mean, and like they would be like, okay, so how do we turn this into a very similar event site? And I think that process was like the
shaped us. Yeah.
I think it definitely shaped us, especially for me, because I'm definitely not on the technical side as technically savvy, but like going into those places, essentially, are you good at solving problems? And
Right.
are you going to care enough in the end product to see it through and make sure like that it's not a shit show? And like, I'll never remember, like, forget, there was some that didn't go super well, and everyone's looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're the AV guys. If we went really bad, and I was like, fuck, I did not want that to happen.
Yeah.
So
I'd say it shaped us, solution oriented, not taking no for an answer. I mean, we did do 250 events over the course of 9 months. And that was in New Hampshire, Iowa, New York, South Carolina, Ohio. I mean, it was the entire Pennsylvania, the entire Eastern Seaboard. And driving to a new city in a rented van, or we bought a van eventually. Calling up local AV companies, calling up party rental companies, finding out flag companies. Gosh, how to get flags shipped to hotels that I was going to be at in a week. We're going to South Carolina. All right, I'm booking a hotel room in South Carolina, and I'm ordering flags to South Carolina. So like, just basically, like, again, not taking no for an answer, like unrelenting will to get it done.
Learning how to frame a burgee.
Learning how to frame an Ohio burgee.
That's a pain in the ass.
So I think that has shaped us a lot. And we still do political. It's 2024, so we're going to be doing, we're already doing political this year. We're going to keep doing political. But I would say that we've done a good job of moving, being targeted in our sales and in our clients that we want. Political's wonderful. It's like the basics of events. It's lights, it's sound, it's stage, it's backdrop. There's not really a lot of video. I mean, nowadays you can get more video and get fancy when you get into the general election stuff, but like, it's the basics, and it was trial by fire, and it taught us everything we need to know on how to put an event on. So I'm excited about this year doing the political, picking up that work when it's here, because it's great work. It's great work, and it's also like, I'm excited to train up kind of the next generation. I'm 35. I'm getting old. I don't want to be grinding as hard as we did, 8 years ago. In your 20s, you can do that. But we're also now we're managing the political. We're doing the political events, and we're also still, doing a good job and have a robust pipeline of corporate clients, corporate events, all of those things. And so that's what excites me, is like, what's the end of this year going to look like, having both?
Yeah. And I think to piggyback off what you're saying, one thing to mention is that we found out the hard way after that political run.
Everything.
We find out the hard way. I mean, we learned the hard way. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's just the way that works for my brain. A little bit of
try
pain.
it and fail.
Yeah.
And try again.
But essentially, after we finished that political run, after doing 3 events a day for a year plus, we wrapped it up and got our trucks back to California and sat down and realized we had
no business.
We had no business. We had essentially done a job. And so then, I mean, since then, it's been our top priority to find, a viable avenue that we're really interested in working in. And corporate events has been our primary target. And over the years, we've just been continuing to progress in scale and scope of projects, and really honing in that being our core business model. There's a lot of things that have crossover between political. I mean, it's a professional speaking engagement,
Mm-hmm.
at the core of it. And so we were well suited for it already, and now we've just made that be our primary focus moving forward. So this year, 2024, I'm really excited, to just keep building upon the success that we've had. Last year, at the end of last year, we put on a massive show, thanks to Advocate for bringing us in. But the Ecolab 100-year anniversary was just like an eye-opener in the sense that it was a huge achievement. It was a badass event. It was so crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a headliner, Kelly Clarkson. We took over the US Bank Stadium where the Vikings play. We had 36 hours to do all of it, transform the field, all this stuff. We spent 3 months just really every single moment of the day working on this project to make sure it came through, and it did. And there was just a moment at the end of that show, and I was watching. We had been up. I got to go sleep for 4 hours, but you were up, and then you left during the show.
I did.
But I got to see Kelly Clarkson come on. I really had like this euphoric moment standing on the field with all the people out there. I was just like, I could tell it was a huge achievement. I was exhausted as hell, but like I felt that moment of achievement, and like right there, really it was like honed me in that I want to be doing this style show. I think that it's important. It's something I felt very proud of. So pushing more into that, and to circle back on why I'm highlighting that project is that it was the first time that we've done something definitely of that scope. And it was also the first time we have worked with very large companies in the past where we've been pretty strictly NDA'd. So this is the first time we could show off that we did it too. And so we went all in on that, and just having all that content to be able to show future clients, it changes everything. Because we've been trying to convince people with highly NDA'd stuff.
We know what we're doing. We swear.
Yeah, it's hard when you don't have access to the content, and you can't really talk about projects you worked on in the past. So although we had worked on very large things, we can finally show off something that was really it looked amazing. It was a huge accomplishment. It was hard.
It was hard, but it wasn't insurmountable.
Yeah.
And it was like, I feel like we knew all the hard parts. We planned for all the hard parts, and there were challenges. There's always challenges and changes and things, but we managed 40 semis of scenic and AV equipment and furniture and whatever, and loaded into a football stadium in 36 hours. We went from a blank football stadium.
We were taping it out at 3 a.m.
We were taping it out at 3 a.m.
And then we were there until.
And we thought about the problems. We, how can we mitigate these problems? How can we, if this occurs, what do we had, we had so many plans in place to make sure it all worked, and it did. There was a moment probably at 9 a.m. on show day, so it's Tuesday, that I was like, shit, were we too ambitious? Are we going to get this?
Yeah.
And
you looked at me. We were stapling carpet down. We were the only ones left in the show. Everybody thankfully left for a couple hours of sleep, and we were like, we're just going to push through, and we did, and we needed to.
But we did.
We did it.
And it was, that's something I've always known that I have a skill for this, but that was the first time that I was like, I don't know if anybody else would have risked what we risked and accomplished what we accomplished.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was right at the point of maybe bit off more.
It was ambitious.
It was ambitious.
But we did it.
Yeah. And so in 2024, I know you're working on a handful of proposals, and we got a lot of really cool we have already opened up a lot of new opportunity in this space that we know we can.
Yeah, I feel like I have that it kind of gives me the confidence. Again, I've known that I'm good at this, right? I know I'm good at what I do, but I didn't realize that that I could accomplish what we accomplished.
Yeah, and that was really at the highest level, right?
That was the highest level in the.
They're not going to have another 100-year
anniversary, right?
For another 100 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, really anything else is on the table as achievable, right? So,
and I'll be honest, by doing that, and especially by being so hands-on in the creative process, and I really can't thank. I said it already. I really can't thank Advocate enough for trusting us on that. We've worked with them for a long time, and they trusted that we would be the partner to get it done, and that gave us the opportunity to, we had to prove that we could, and we weren't going to let them down. We never let them down. We said yes, and we had to prove that we could, and in doing so, I proved to ourselves we're absolutely suited to do the largest shows in this space.
Yep,
we can do any of them, and so that opened up just what the future looks like. And for me, it's chasing that high. Like, I want to go back there. I definitely do not want to have the parameters around time. I would have loved 4 days, 5 days, but you know what? That's the way it goes. If it came back and it was that way, I would just have slept more the days before.
I talked to Jeremy this morning.
I would have prepared a little more for the lack of sleep, but I definitely want it's when I look at the future, I see projects
hooked
of that.
That's the thing about events. Nature. It's the same thing in theater. Yeah. You do that first live show, you do that, and you get the feeling of the crowd, the audience, and people clapping, and you're hooked.
Oh, yeah.
You got to do it again. Yeah, I was literally talking to Jeremy this morning, and he was like, it was a lot of work, but damn it, I would do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. And like, when you achieve it, especially when you achieve it with the group, I remember going back to the hotel, and we all just sat there, and it was like, we fucking won. It's like any sports movie you've ever seen where it's like that like singing Queen, we will rock you at the end of Mighty Ducks. It was that moment. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, there's nothing better than putting everything you have out there and coming away a winner. I feel like it's like Super Bowl level. And like, I know that, whatever.
Super Bowl?
Super Bowl.
Just happened. Next year,
level.
Call us.
Yes. Yeah, but so I'm excited to push as far as we can push in that. And like I said, knowing that it's well within our grasp and knowing that we have the resources now, especially we found so many tremendous partners, and I'm really anchoring on this project. But we did a number of projects last year that have just opened up talent and opportunity for us to know without a doubt that when we see maybe. Sometimes we have clients come in that bring a project where we are asked to do more of the creative or whatever it is. We have the resources to be able to turn that around quickly. Mm-hmm. So when we have the opportunity to come in, we know who to call to get it done. Whereas before, this has all been an evolution of just getting more and more opportunity in this space.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We've gained a lot of resources, made a lot of contacts, and also like, I think that kind of goes both ways. Like, we have now become folks that the people we worked with would call, right? Mm-hmm. So it's, hey, Legion managed this project and they did an amazing job. I have this other big project. I'm really good at X. I'm going to call Legion to help us. That's really all you can ask for, right?
I think just to wrap up this episode, my wife is at a conference, and that means that I'm in charge of picking up my 2 children, and I was supposed to leave about 5 minutes to do so. So I think we're going to have to wrap up our first inaugural. Is it inaugural or is it inaugural? Inaugural is recurring, or it's the first one?
Inaugural is the first one.
The first one. I should know that because I've done a lot of
inaugurations.
Events.
You've done a lot of inaugurations.
But I feel like because the inauguration happens every time there's a new person, it's not inaugural.
You're not wrong. Like, we just did Gavin Newsom's second inauguration,
which doesn't make sense. But that was a great first inauguration. And
that was a great inaugural vodcast.
And now inaugural
vodcast podcast.
Thank you.
Inaugural vodcast podcast. Success.
Thank you very much.
Anything for closing remarks? Like, hope you find some value. We'd love feedback. We want to hear your thoughts on the industry, on what you do in the event industry, how our roles are similar but different, the stresses of being an event planner. We're not event planners. We do a lot of planning. We do a lot of logistics and a lot of planning, but we're not the event planners. So a lot of times we work for event planners, with event planners. Like, what's that world like? Mm-hmm. What are your biggest stressors? How could we alleviate those stresses? Like, gosh, there's so many things.
Well, and I think the cool thing is the way we're going to do this show is that we want it to become
a community,
a discussion point.
Yeah.
Like, we're not telling you this is the best way to do it. I can tell you the best way not to do a lot of things. I can definitely do that. But, we're trying to grow a business in the event space, and we're looking to build a community around that. And we're looking to share information that we've found helpful, or
best
pitfalls that we've ran
practices.
into, or different things that we think are interesting that we're diving into. And, if we can share that information, and it helps somebody, or if we can share that information and somebody else helps us, that's awesome.
That's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Excited to do another one.